All they do is win. Big Blue off yet another win, this time in Jacksonville. Another come-from-behind victory on to Seattle.
And how about Gangrene? Make it 4 in a row for the Jets. Can they knock off the Patriots after last year's blowout in what we're calling a homecoming game? What?
Both teams have won 4 games in a row. It's unbelievable. No idea the last time both the Jets and Giants won 4 games in a row. What I do have an idea about is who's got the answer to why they're winning. It's the great Greg Buttle. He's going to talk about chemistry and culture coming up next.
This is the Pix 11 New York Sports Nation podcast.
All right, everybody, thank you for taking the time to listen to this edition of New York Sports Nation, the podcast. As always, we appreciate it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff, as we like to say around here. We appreciate it.
All right, let's start with the Jets. Greg Buttle, the Jets and Giants are probably the 2 surprise teams in the NFL. Can you talk to us about the leadership of the 2 teams and how that's made a difference in winning and losing?
Well, in terms of leadership, you're talking about both have relatively new coaches. So new leadership under coaches means what? That means new culture. The culture is a little different under the Jets' Saleh than it was under Adam Gase, and it's a lot different. And I think that is the number one reason where the Jets are in terms of locker room. It's not that hard to make the locker room do what it needs to do right now for the Jets. It was last year and the year before. It was ridiculous. You go over to the Giants, and it's the same thing over there at the Giants. You look at head coach that's come in here, and he's done a tremendous job within the locker room. And so they understand what the color of the day is. They understand what the goals are, and they don't change. They are what they are. And when you have leaders and coaches that dictate this is what we're going to do every single day, you do the same thing.
I just want to point out that you've just associated these NFL teams with my son's kindergarten class, where the color of the day is a very appropriate thing. Seems we overcomplicate things. Everything I need to learn in life, I learned in kindergarten.
And you know what? It's more like the Army. I mean, it's this is how you're going to go. This is how you're going to do. This is how you're going to like. This is what you're not going to like. And so it becomes more focused for you. Once you do that, then it's easier to focus on what you're going to do. I really believe that. But the culture on both these teams has changed a lot. And I don't know how much it really took with the Giants, and I don't know how much it really took with the Jets. But if you can't recognize that these cultures, these teams have changed by the way these teams play, then I think you're blind. That's number one. So number two is you look at how the teams are playing with their talent, right? So you go with the coaching, and then you go to the talent. The talent has been upgraded everywhere, and I don't mean just through the draft or free agency. Within the team, if anyone was going to tell me the Giants are going to be 5-1 or 6-1 or 7-1 with no wide receivers that are perceptible to the human nation of football, then I would be shocked. But they are, and they've been able to do it with a guy who's been malaligned for the last 3 years in Daniel Jones. And I, for one, and you remember doing it, I, for one, have always liked Daniel Jones from the time I saw him play in the bowl game.
Yep.
To then. It's just that it seems to be that finally some guy has recognized what Daniel Jones does best, and he's taken advantage of that. That's number one.
All right, let's move to your area of expertise, the Jets, and again, let's talk about leadership.
Oh, so my expertise is limited just to the Jets? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying your highest level of expertise. You've got a doctorate in football.
But I'm just saying.
But I intimated.
Okay.
And now I'm going to move on to my question. Will not be a multiple choice. You schooled me on that last week. Elijah Moore situation. How do you feel like the Jets handle that? He's going to play. He's going to start. Somehow they got him back into camp. How do you think the Jets' leadership dealt with that?
Well, leadership starts, of course, with the head coach. I think that Saleh has intimated to the media exactly what he thinks of the kid, exactly what he thinks of the situation, and going forward what they're going to do. I mean, I don't think it could be more plain to the press than what he said. Now, that being said, there's a locker room that he has to contend with. And the locker room probably is easier for Elijah Moore to contend with than the head coach or the coaches, because the players get it. The players do get, all right, you're not getting catches. Yeah, the players do know that some players are individualists and some are social binders. They don't know them as those titles, but I describe them as such, is that you know the players that care about what they do, and some care about more about what they do than another player. And so you do recognize that. But here's the end result. And Elijah Moore can go out there and bitch and moan all he wants and play well. When he doesn't play well, it's going to hurt him, because now everyone is going to scrutinize how he plays. Okay, so if you don't play well, you drop the ball. You're the big mouth, you drop the ball. And you're in the locker room, they're going to tell him that. You know, so the locker room's a little different than the coach. The coach may soft sell something. Players aren't. Players are going to tell it the way it is. He's got friends in the locker room. They're going to tell him every time they go out, well, you dropped the ball, you did this. Let's go to the film and all that kind of stuff. So the locker room, and again, here's where you go, the culture. Is the locker room that good that you can contain Elijah Moore's emotional state one way or the other and still have him play well? Well, we're going to find out. I think it is.
Moose, losing Breece Hall is devastating. They bring in James Robinson. For Jet fans that have not watched every Jaguar game, what can we expect out of him? Certainly week one will be more limited, but as this season goes on as a replacement.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's earned everything that he's gotten here in the NFL. You know, so you look at James Robinson. I mean, the scouting report is basically a one-cut guy, and he goes. You know, he's not the home run threat that Breece Hall was or is going to be once he comes back from the torn ACL. That's why the Jets trade up in the second round to get the running back out of Iowa State. But Robinson's been a really productive runner. You know, but I mean, there can be limitations to what he can do. You know, he doesn't have top-end speed. He does have long touchdown runs. You saw a big one on a fourth down play earlier in the season for the Jaguars against the Indianapolis Colts. So I think what it shows you is, number one, the aggressiveness of Joe Douglas, where the Jets believe their team is. He wants to play relevant football. He thinks this team is capable of playing relevant football. The room not good enough. And so rewarding, you know, you hear about it a lot in baseball. Brian Cashman, I know that can be a sore subject for Yankee fans.
Yeah, I was about to say timing on that one.
Right, but Brian Cashman often would say at the MLB trade deadline, the team needs to show me that they deserve to be reinforced. And if they do, we will do whatever we need to do to try and give them the best opportunity to win. So I think this Jet team has shown the organization, the fans, those that cover them, everybody that watches, that this is a good football team. And you lose a guy like the caliber of Breece Hall, we're going to see what we can do to try and rectify that situation in the short term.
Great analogy, Moose, even if it is a sore spot today. But if he signs Aaron Judge tomorrow, it won't be sore, and the analogy will still be great.
Cashman might get fired. But
it's okay. The analogy is still great. Mr. Buttle, playing running back may not be as complicated as other positions, but what can we expect from James Robinson on Sunday? How quickly can he get up to speed with the offense?
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, he's a professional. Yeah, the game plans are a little different. Maybe a 19's a 19, but when you haven't run behind your line or this line, you know how the quarterback hands the ball off. There's a lot of things that go into being ready. Now, that being said, he probably could be 80% ready to play and play in certain situations where they will give him, all right, this is one play we're going to do for you. These are the 3 plays we're going to use you on, and they'll run them in practice. And so that's what he'll be ready for. The future is he adds great depth to a pretty good running back field that's still there. Forget the fact that Breece Hall is gone, and you've known me for years about the running game, what I think about it. But yeah, you take out a kid that has shown that he can, Breece Hall, can catch the ball, he can move downfield, and he's smart. Now, I don't know if Robinson is all 3 of those things, but I'll take 2 out of 3. I'll take 2 out of he can catch the ball and he can run, and whether he can manipulate a play call to a non-pass to a run, I don't know. But point being is, I think they've added really good depth to the running back situation, and he appears to be healthy. That's all I can tell you.
So, Joe, the Jets have won, and that's all anybody cares about. This is a results-oriented league. However, without Hall, Zach Wilson has not been, at least statistically, tearing the league apart. Do you think, without Hall, that Zach Wilson needs to step up a little bit more? And what do you expect to see out of him?
I think that's putting it mildly, that he hasn't been tearing the
I'm a
league
nice
apart.
guy.
I mean, these last two, Moose was harping on it on Sunday, 121 yards throwing, not going to get it
That's
done
not
long
good,
term
right?
for Zach Wilson.
At some point, yeah. It is a passing league.
Absolutely.
Right.
As Greg
like
Buttle
what
reminds
Buttle
us
said.
each and every week on this podcast here. But look, I look at it, I think the bigger loss for him is going to be Elijah Vera Tucker. The guy has moved all over the line, and he was running for his life last week, Zach Wilson. Say what you want. Denver's offense might be in shambles. They have a very good defense out there, and it was windy at Mile High. Green Bay still has a very good passing defense against the run. I think they're last in the league. So those 2 weeks are tough to come by. But things aren't going to get easier against this New England Patriots defense, especially coming off a blowout loss when they lost in prime time on Monday night to the Chicago Bears. If you don't think Bill Belichick is going to have this team up and ready, then you're crazy, because you're going to see the best that the New England Patriots have to offer here. That being said, look, he has the playmakers around him, right? Garrett Wilson has already proved what he can do as a rookie. He's been outstanding so far. We know about the talent Elijah Moore has. If they try to force him the ball, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. Wouldn't be surprised if you see him getting some sweeps on handoffs or whatnot, using him out of the backfield just to get the ball in his hands. But Wilson is going to have to get rid of that ball quick. And I think that you really do have to focus on the game plan in the NFL, right? When you're going against the worst rushing defense in the league, well, run the ball, right? We saw, and we're talking about Bill Belichick, who we saw in a Monday Night Football game against the Bills, I think threw the ball one time, or maybe it was 2 times, forgive me, and they end up winning that game. So you go with your game plan versus the opponent. Styles make fights, that sort of thing. The Jets have the ability to win a lot of different fights because of the talent that they have on offense this year, and this is something we haven't seen in a Jets team in a really long time. So does Zach have the ability to air it out and open up this offense? I think he does, but I think it's more important that he limits the turnovers, which he's done this season, and that, I think, is the biggest reason the Jets are winning.
Moose, do you expect to see Zach throwing the ball more? Do you expect to see...
I do not. I mean, honestly, I do not. I think that the fact that they went out and got Robinson shows you what this team is looking to try and do. And I think it's, the passing game, I think, will evolve at the, with what the strengths of this team is and what has been winning football, which is playing great defense, and they've got playmakers at every level. Williams on the defensive line and Gardner in the backfield are special, and they feel like they're going to outmuscle you and they're going to beat you at the point of attack. I think Joe made a good point about Elijah Vera Tucker. We are going to talk about in New York Blitz Saturday night with Greg at 10:30 right here on WPIX. He's the most talented offensive lineman they have. And when asked, could probably play and thrive at any position that you throw it at. I mean, listen, he played left tackle earlier this season. So that loss is going to hurt. But I don't think they're all of a sudden going to spread the New England Patriots out and beat them. I think they're going to look at what the Chicago Bears were able to do, which is run it. Now, could you use some designed runs with Zach Wilson? For sure. But at some point, they're going to have to throw the football. I don't know if it's going to be this Sunday against New England.
Yeah, I agree. I look at that Monday night game, though, as a little bit of fool's gold for the Chicago Bears, right? If you look at that perspective, because Justin Fields, especially toward the end of that first half when the game was still in doubt, he was running for his life. And it's really difficult to cover on the back end. I'll let Greg speak to this more, but when the quarterback is extending the play for 6-7 seconds, asking those cornerbacks to stay with the wide receivers is quite the difficult proposition out there. And we know that Zach Wilson is also an athlete. I don't know if he's the athlete that Justin Fields is when it comes to running around back there, but he will be able to extend plays. I don't know, they're going to have to he's going to have to extend plays if they're going to take advantage of the New England Patriots defense the way the Bears were able to.
So, Mr. Buttle, you talked a little bit about the Defensive Player of the Week, not the Defensive Rookie Player of the Week, the Defensive Player of the Week. Sauce has played amazing, and you had some insight into why you thought that was and how he plays so well. Can you share that?
Well, the one thing that I've always liked about him is his range. I don't mean his range in speed or latitude. It's his range in his arms and legs. Is that he's got long appendages, and he looks like he's beat.
That'll be a drop.
It looks like he's beat, but he gets his hand in the way, and it's on the ball. It's not on the guy's arm, it's on the ball. And that's what I've noticed a lot in his pass defenses, which means he's got pretty good hips and he's got good reach, he's got good eyes, and he has a good feel. In other words, where he's looking at the receiver getting ready to catch the ball, he's got to feel where the ball's coming. So I think that's what he does really good. Now, the question is he's got the most pass defense in the league at this point. Why is that? Well, because people are challenging him. They say, I don't think he's that good. Pretty soon, he'll have the least pass defenses in the league because they're not going to throw to his guy. All he's got to do is make a couple interceptions, and then it's game over for the right side of the defense, and the left side is going to have to play. So I think that it's very interesting the way he's been playing, and I think he's now full-speed veteran. He's now full-speed veteran in this league.
So, Mr. Moose.
Exclamation point.
Boom. Mic drop. Mr. Moose. Belichick has vacillated a little bit, obviously, with his quarterback, with Zappe and Mac Jones. Jones is going to start. When somebody of his ilk is not firm in who his starting quarterback is, does that mean they don't have a starting quarterback? And the Jets' defense has played pretty well. Is this a chance for the Jets' defense to continue to play well?
Yeah, I think they're going to play well. I mean, the whole Zappe, Mac Jones, I gotta be honest with you, I think Jones is a better quarterback, and I don't think it's particularly close. Despite the fact Zappe threw 62 touchdown passes at Western Kentucky. You know, the Jets have a guy on their team, Mike White, that had a ton of touchdown passes at Western Kentucky as well.
The Patriots have 2 blowouts, and it was Zappe who was the quarterback.
I understand, but if you
I'm
look
just saying.
But if
Against
you look
the Browns and the Lions.
up against the Browns and the Lions, where the Browns also, they had a special teams touchdown, they had defensive turnovers, there were a lot of things that went into it. Mac Jones is a better quarterback than Bailey Zappe. I mean, if the Patriots decide to move on from Mac Jones, he'll get another opportunity to play. I think the Jets defense is going to play well because I think they're a good defense. I mean, I do. I mean, I think I don't think the Jets. I don't think they're doing with smoke and mirrors. I don't think they're doing it, and I don't think it's a case of fooling people. I think they have talented players on their defense. Talent wins. Coaching, obviously, you need to have good coaches have an understanding of what to do with that talent. But there's a reason why this Jet defense is doing what they're doing this year and how well they're playing. Why Quinnen Williams was Defensive Player of the Week. Why Sauce Gardner was Defensive Player of the Week. They're going to play well against the Patriots. Whether it be Bailey Zappe, whether it be Mac Jones, there's really no weapons on that defense aside from Devontae Parker that scare you. Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back. The offensive line struggles up front with blocking. They've got a former defensive coordinator calling plays. I mean, everyone says, well, I trust Bill Belichick and how it looks. I get it, and Patriot fans are looking to throw Mac Jones under the bus for how bad he looked in opening quarter against the Chicago Bears. But if you're telling me who's a better quarterback pound for pound, I tell you it's Mac Jones.
So, Mr. Buttle, as we get to prediction time, the media and fans look back to last year when the Patriots scored 54 points. They were still throwing late in the game, and the Jets have revenge on their mind. You explained to me before our show that players don't think that way. Can you explain to our listening public the way players view stuff like that?
Take professional sports, and let's just call it you're a pro, okay? Pro means the play at hand is the most important play of all time. The second most important play is the next play. The least important play was the last play. You cannot dwell on what happened yesterday, what happened last night, what happened one play ago. Once you do, you cannot play presently. And certainly if you're thinking about what's going to happen at the third quarter or fourth quarter and you're in the first quarter, it's not happening. You've got to be disciplined and this is what makes the best professionals who they are, is that they're disciplined, that the play at hand is what matters, not what happened and not what the next play is going to be. And once you get a team that recognizes that, they can absolutely shut it all out around them, whether it's the media, it's their wives, it's the coaches. It's about the players because a coach can.
I've been trying to shut my wife out for years. It doesn't happen.
How's that working out for you, Joe?
We're going to have to take that right off.
Right. Do you have a comfortable sofa, Joe?
Love you, darling.
So my thing is that once you get to that point, and believe me, human nature dictates that you care about what you did wrong, or care about what you're doing right, and you're proud of what you do right, and not so proud of what you did wrong. Sports is different. It means nothing if you win. It's all about what you did right. So to be able to win, you've got to forget about all the bad plays you did or all the stupid things you did and go forward and play in the present, be in the present, and then let the future come.
All right, let's start with Joe, see if we can get him off the sofa. Make you some money, Joe. Who's going to win this weekend with Jets, Pats, and why?
I think the Jets are going to win this one.
Well, yeah.
I think that
Look at Joe.
they're the better team all around right now. I think that the Patriots are reeling. Moose outlined the struggles with the offense. Don't get me wrong. I think this is going to be a slobber knocker, if you would, here. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game. But I think that the New England Patriots are back in the pack with the rest of the NFL. And I think the Jets have a shot. I don't think they'll be able to, the Patriots will be able to run the ball. I question their playmakers on the outside. And you outlined the quarterback controversy that exists right now. So if Jones struggles early, which he might against the secondary, then it's going to be very interesting. But I'll tell you what, Robert Saleh better coach him up because Bill Belichick is going to be ready coming off that blowout.
Moose?
Yeah, listen, I think the Jets are a more talented team. I think they probably win the game. The only concern I'd be is I think the Pats come in as put whatever happened in the past behind them or the motivation of Belichick as a team. They come in as like a wounded animal, so to speak. Jones hearing the boo birds and the chant for Zappy up in Foxborough. They just got embarrassed for a myriad of different reasons against a team that they were nearly a double-digit favorite against at home. Those are things when you look at it, like put all the Jet motivation aside. You've seen a lot of times this year when watching the National Football League where one week a team can look completely different than another when you're coming off the kind of performance that the Patriots came off against the Chicago Bears. That would be the thing that'd be a little concerned about. Then you throw in the factor, no Breece Hall, no Vera Tucker around the offensive line. What is Belichick going to do to go out there and try and confuse Zach Wilson? I think the Jets pound for pound more talented when you look at the 53-man roster, but there's other factors that come in. I'd take the Jets to win the game, but I would not be surprised if New England squeaks out a win.
Jeez, what? Well, that was a good answer. I think the Jets are going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they
wouldn't be surprised.
I'm just saying he asked for who's going to win. That's what he said.
I'd say the Jets are going to win, but you've seen it this year.
Greg Bell has come so far.
Right. He wouldn't make predictions. Now he criticizes the Moose's predictions.
Well, I think the Jets go. I think it's a toss of the coin. I think it's a flip of the coin. I mean, I do. I mean, I'd be surprised if New England walks into MetLife and beats the Jets on Sunday. That would not surprise me at all, because they just got their rear end kicked on national TV by the Chicago Bears at home. Mac Jones Mac Jones will play significantly better Sunday than he did against Chicago, and that defense will play significantly better than they did against the Bears.
All right, you're absolutely 100% right.
Sounds like you just picked the Patriots.
That's what it sounded like to me. But that's beside the point. Anyway, so it's my turn. Is that what you're saying?
It is absolutely your turn.
So here's the answer to that. What is the best thing the Jets do? I'll ask you guys. What's the best thing the Jets do?
Right now, it's their stop the pass defense. Their secondary is the best part of that team.
Can Belichick take that away from the Jets?
I mean, he can run the ball.
No, he can't.
Yeah.
He can't do it. He can't take that.
But their run defense is good too.
Right. So what do the Jets do best?
Run the ball.
Yes.
Okay. Can Belichick take that away?
Well, we'll see. I mean, they took away Breece
let's
Hall.
pretend he takes it away. All right. How do you take that away? Put 8 men in the box. Okay.
Sure.
What does that do? Let your quarterback be able to know that. Okay. Here's what they're doing. This is what I can do to beat that. Right.
1-on-1.
Will the Jets be able to do that if the Patriots stop the Jets' run game? And let's just use that. And my answer to that is yes, they can. Okay, so yes, they can do that. I think this is a good game for the Jets to really sit back and go, okay, we played hard, 60 minutes, didn't turn the ball over, and and we beat the Patriots by 10, 11 points.
Whoa!
Wow.
I think they can
10,
do that.
11. Moose would be surprised by that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I believe that can happen, and I think, listen, the history of the Jets right now is they get better in the second half. The history of the Jets right now is they run the ball better in the second half. The history of the Jets is they score points in the fourth quarter. The history of the Jets this year, forget last year because we don't care. It's about this year. They're doing things to win football games. Why not the
Culture
Patriots?
and chemistry.
Why not the Patriots? Don't turn the ball over. They beat the Patriots.
I want to say something, though, because we talked a lot about Breece Hall being gone. I don't think Michael Carter gets enough credit for what he can do out of the backfield. And I think part of the success of Breece Hall comes from the tandem that they had back there. And so don't sell Carter short on this one.
Anyone listening to this, he's talking to you, not to me, because I don't sell
Absolutely.
Carter short on anything. just so we're on the same page, because media would take that and say, "Oh, Buttle sold him short," right? And that's what you're.
Well, he
intimating.
is diminutive in stature, but that's about it. That's about the only way you would sell him short.
Plays with a lot of heart.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
All right, so I listened to Greg Buttle. 23 points to win a game. Jets 24-17 this weekend. On to the New York Football Giants. Another team that's won 4 games in a row. Moose, let's start with you. There's breaking news. It's not often breaking news on a podcast. Moose, you tweeted about it, so now everyone knows. Maybe it's not breaking.
I didn't break the
Everyone
story.
follows the Moose. Yeah, but you tweeted about
I
it.
commented on the breaking
All
news.
right, but you got 25,000 people
let's be
on
clear.
your Twitter,
Yes.
so you
Gotta
shared
build up
it. Right, you disseminated the information. Talk to us about. They took a first-round draft pick, turned it into a 3rd and 6, trading Kadarius Toney.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
I think Tony's talented, but I think he's never on the field. I think there's look at it from a Giant perspective. The turnover has already begun and it continues. It was a bad draft pick by Dave Gettleman after he traded back. He acquired a number 1 from the Chicago Bears, but Tony flashed, and I think Tony can play in the National Football League. He's just never healthy, but he can do stuff with the ball in his hands that I would probably say 1% of the NFL could do, maybe less than. I mean, he's can make guys miss in small space, but availability is got to be an asset when you're in the National Football League. And he wasn't drafted by this regime. They wanted to move on. It wasn't the fact that he wasn't just healthy. I think there were other headaches that came along with it. They just didn't want to deal with the drama and the nonsense that came along with it. So they turned a first-round pick and a guy that they didn't look at as being part of their future into a 3 and a 6. Now, with that being said, you also have to open up the idea and look at it that way and say, all right, the Giants are moving on. It wasn't going to work here. There is the possibility that Kadarius Toney is a ridiculous star with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, that is distinct. There is a road and a pathway for there. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay on the field. But Kadarius Toney in Reed's offense, with his
Their
playmaking
quarterback
ability,
is good, too.
Yes, with his playmaking ability, with his speed, his ability at his size to high point the football, his ability at his size to make guys miss in the open field. He's got to stay healthy. There is a possibility, though, that Kadarius Toney is ridiculously good with the Chiefs.
I just can't help but think about Andy Reid with him in that offense there. If he does get on the field, obviously that's the big if. You lose Tyreek Hill, you replace him with Kadarius Toney, who's so much cheaper. You might be able to argue just as talented. And look, obviously
I don't think he's as fast as Hill.
Maybe not in straight line speed,
Right, I
but
don't
the
think
way
he's
he
as
gets
fast.
in and out of breaks,
No doubt.
is insane.
It's insane.
And when he was coming out of college, there were reports about the character, but there were a lot of teams that were really intrigued by what he could be. The night that they made that draft pick, GMs were saying that Kadarius Toney was a really
Jacksonville was gonna take him.
Right, nobody disputes his talent.
Urban Meyer came out and basically said it. They would not have drafted Travis Etienne. They would have drafted Kadarius Toney.
And so you think about that,
Wow.
and having that in Andy Reid's system.
Yeah.
I mean, Giants don't look at this as that because he wasn't playing here, he wasn't fitting in here. You can't look at what that was. it's you cut your losses on this and you got something back for it.
I got to tell you, could leave a mark if he lifts the Lombardi Trophy with Mahomes and adds to that offense. I'm just saying, they'll look back at it.
They just put up 40-plus points against the San Francisco 49ers defense, which is one of the best in the league, and now you're giving them another weapon. Juju Smith-Schuster comes over there. They don't miss a beat. It's insane.
No, they really don't.
He's on my Picks 11 fantasy team, Juju.
Yes.
Okay, so speaking of fantasy teams, Russell Wilson, big off-season move, goes to Denver. The Broncos are going to be a Super Bowl team. That didn't really work out.
Not so much.
Geno Smith, last time we saw him leaving the field at MetLife, he was saluting the fans. All of a sudden, he spends a couple years in the system. He learns the system. He's got to be one of the pleasant surprises of the season. He's playing great out there, but the Giants' defense is playing well. What do you guys expect in that matchup, Giants defense versus Geno? I'm going to go with Joe.
Well, I think that, first of all, he's fit into a system, right? And I think
which he knows. Like I say, he's been studying it for 2 years, which is good.
And you look at it, Pete Carroll, what he's been able to do is just keep that going. The wide receivers that they have there are talented. Now, I'm not sure if DK Metcalf's status at this point. He got hurt in the last game for the Seahawks. And, there's no denying that guy is just an athletic freak out there. And then Tyler Lockett opposite him. The guy just finds a way to get open, soft spots in the zone. And couple that with a balanced run game. Obviously, Brashard Penny goes down. Kenneth Walker III steps up, the rookie out of Michigan State there. And it is a well-balanced offense, and Pete Carroll is just proving that he is a great coach. And we hear all the things about how much Russell Wilson's teammates have hated him. Imagine if they liked him, how good this team could have been. Maybe they would have won another Super Bowl there. But I don't think Geno Smith is doing...
Well, they would have had to hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, and then they could have won another one. But they could have won a third.
Richard Sherman has talked about that every Thursday night.
He should.
But I don't think Geno Smith is doing high knees on cross-country plane flights while his teammates are sleeping over there. It's insane.
It was ridiculous.
Russell Wilson, ever since look.
What's wrong with him?
I go back now, right? It's revisionist
Something's
history.
wrong with him.
Yeah, you think about all of the things he did. Remember when he was in bed with Ciara and he was like, Seattle, we got a deal. Like at the moment, I didn't realize.
Lennon.
Looking back on how phony he is, everything, Broncos country, everything just comes across as so phony now. And now you got a guy who couldn't seem more down to earth than Geno Smith, and his teammates are loving the success, right? And he's loving all the haters and the doubters. You saw in that after they beat Russell Wilson in the opening game.
Are you going to
get
yourself a danger witch?
No, I don't think. But it's really impressive what he's done out there. This week, though, I think the bigger challenge for the Giants is going to be containing that run game because the Giants are giving up almost 6 yards a carry. They're one of the worst in the league. And I'd be more concerned about that run game opening things up for Geno Smith on the play action.
Bruce, what do you think about that matchup? Giants defense versus Geno Smith and the Seattle offense.
Yeah, I think Joe, put it really well. I think it's,
as always.
He does a
outstanding job.
Right, I think the rookie out of Michigan State, Kenneth Murray is going to be he's an unbelievable young running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Takes over for Rashad Penny, who broke his leg earlier in the regular season, a guy that the Seahawks had drafted coming out of, San Diego State in the first round, and took a while to kind of get going, but kind of found himself, and then all of a sudden he breaks his leg. So I think the ground game, Geno being able to throw off of it, I think DK Metcalf has been a huge key. Lockett, obviously, we know, veteran wide receiver. Yeah, both of them are a little bit banged up. Give Geno credit, though, and really give Carroll credit.
Yes.
I think what you're seeing on Sunday in Seattle, however way it does play, and I think this is a game the Giants can lose to the Seahawks. Never would have thought it before the start of the year. No one would ever thought the Giants and Seahawks would be in this position.
The Seahawks were supposed to be one of the worst. Both of these teams are supposed to be the worst in the league.
And now it's the marquee matchup of the weekend, you could say.
Coaching in the NFL, whatever you want to say, coaching does matter. Like we joke around what's going on with Russell Wilson in Denver. Hackett's a terrible young head coach. You look at what's going on in Seattle and New York. Pete Carroll can coach.
Yeah.
He's the oldest coach in the National Football League. He doesn't look like he's in his mid-70s. He's running around the sideline chewing that gum ferociously. But Pete Carroll can coach, and so can Brian Daboll. And it's what you're going to see on Sunday is two of the better coaching jobs that you've seen, from not telling you what we don't have, but accentuating what we do have. Finding ways to say, okay, how do we win this week's matchup? How do we win this game? How do we get the best out of Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence along the defensive front, and doing all those things? That's what great coaching does regardless of sport. Put your team in the best possible position to win. That's the biggest storyline to me is those two coaches, what the job that they've done. Geno Smith's great. Give him credit. Nobody believed. I thought Seattle was going to be awful. I thought Geno was going to be awful, and he's playing some of the best football of his career.
So great coaching makes a difference. Let's look at the Giants. Dayball has turned Daniel Jones into a good quarterback. He's the offensive player of the week. Here's the question. Is he a franchise quarterback? Are they making a mess for themselves? If he stays healthy, which is the biggest thing, what on earth do they do at the end of the season?
Well, I think I think we've got a ways to go. I think the positive for Jones is, number one, the performance. Number two, the leadership. Number three, he stayed healthy. Number four, he's taking care of the football. So I've kind of intertwined a lot of different things on the field or off the field when you look at Daniel Jones. But I think there was probably a perception of Jones by this regime coming in, and I think slowly but surely, just like he's doing with everybody else, I think he's changing that perception of what he is as a quarterback. The Giants have not really done all that well behind in handling Daniel Jones. The owner even said as much. But Jones is playing great football. I mean, you want, he really is. Whether it be with the Giants or someplace else, he's going to be an NFL quarterback next year.
He's staying with the Giants, and here's why.
Yeah,
wow.
He just languished, right, for the first 4 years of his career, or for 3.5 years of his career, and now he's got a coaching staff that is going to use his athletic ability and put him in a position to succeed. Now, that being said, I think it makes sense for the Giants too, because if you go out and you draft a quarterback, who knows, right? It is a little bit of a crapshoot there. Even guys like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes sat early in their career so that they could have a little time to develop. That's why even if they go out and draft a quarterback, I think Daniel Jones is here next year. Now, they're not going to franchise him because it just doesn't make sense, and he wouldn't command that money on the open market. Right. He's not going to get that. So you offer him a 2-3 year deal. Mm-hmm. Maybe he pushes for 5. They settle somewhere in the middle, mm-hmm. and you see where it goes from there. But I think he's going to want to be here because it's only going to increase his stock, and he now is on the same page with his coaching staff, and he's having the best year of his career.
Yeah.
So the Giants are second in the NFL in rushing, and a lot of that is Daniel Jones, and a lot of that Saquon's been unbelievable. So the question is, can this sustain itself? I get concerned about Daniel Jones getting hurt again. The concussion, the neck, his ankle. Is it sustainable?
I mean, it's the NFL, right? Anybody on any play could get hurt. They talk about, when you talk about real life, you get hit by a car crossing the street. On every single play, you could have a catastrophic injury that ends your career in the NFL. That's a possibility that exists out there. But I think he's aware of that, right? He gets down the rules that are out there to protect the quarterback. Even with Tua, we saw him last week try and barrel over a defender on Sunday Night Football, coming off this massive concussion where the guy looked like he might be paralyzed for life. You go out there and play the game. You can't think about the potential for injury that's going to be out there because it's there every single play.
Yeah, I think the Giants have got a little lucky too at times, and that's fine. I think.
What do you mean when you say lucky?
Well, I would say sloppy, just from the other team. Like Peterson decided a quarterback sneak with Trevor Lawrence at the Giants' 20-yard line. Up, what were they? Up 4? No, up. Yeah, they were up 17-13 at that time. Up 4, 17-13. Kick the field goal, you go up a touchdown. All of a sudden, then they're trailing. ATN, it was a great football play, but not protecting the football going in. Gets the ball knocked out of his hands, goes into the end zone. Jackson turning the football over against Baltimore. Now, listen, the defense made plays. I don't want to come across. Giants are an unbelievable story, but at some point when you continuously get outgained every week, when you continuously, at some point,
right.
Those numbers are going to come back. That's going to come back to haunt you at some point. Now, the thing the Giants are benefiting is they played extremely soft schedule. Like after Seattle, then you've got Houston and Detroit and
we talked about the schedule. The easiest in the NFL. This is a tough task for them, Seattle.
Right, Seattle's a tough task based on what they've gone up against. So I think it's sustainable running the ball. The problem is now 2/5 of your starting offensive line are hurt.
Right.
Evan Neal's out for potentially maybe the next 3 weeks with a sprained MCL. So that does hurt. Thomas is a stud at left tackle. I think it's sustainable to run the ball. I think the Giants at some point, just like we were talking about with the Jets, you've got to make good. You've got to be able to throw it. Unfortunately, the Giants, unlike the Jets, have weapons. The Giants really don't.
Yeah, it is amazing.
So that leads me to my next question. They're 6-1. They don't have a wide receiver over 200 yards with reception.
Yeah, Richie James leading the team in receiving.
It's crazy. And Kadarius Toney's gone. If Daniel Jones is not going to run the ball all the time and put himself in a position where he could get injured, like crossing the street in real life, who on earth is he going to throw the ball to? Obviously, Daniel Bellinger is now out. Who can he throw the ball to?
Yeah,
Slayton.
Yeah, Slayton would be the guy. I mean, it'd be Slayton. It'd be
who else? That's your number one receiver now. And think about if you said that in the preseason.
Right, he almost didn't make the team.
But
so that's not impressive.
Yeah, I think
it's true, but not impressive.
Right, they're going to line Barkley up at wide receiver, which you've seen this year. You saw last year in that Saints game, and make use of him. But it's going to be a lot of the same guys that you have. They have also taken a hit where Bellinger gets hurt, and he's done for a while here. There's no timetable for his return, and he became a red zone target and somebody to be comfortable with Daniel Jones. It's the other thing is it's not just Daniel Jones also has to be helped out. Like when, regardless of the name on the back of the jersey, when the quarterback puts it on your hands.
You gotta catch it.
You gotta catch the ball.
Yeah.
And Joe, I can't even tell you how many times you've watched this year to the point where you actually saw frustration from Daniel Jones. This past week in Jacksonville,
loved that from him.
He walked it back. He's like, catch the ball. Like he's
on
put
the
it
slant pattern.
Like, help me out a little bit.
So that's what I was going to say before when you talked about how the Giants have been getting lucky or other teams just making mistakes. The Giants in that game, I was going to mention that slant. They also could have kicked the field goal there and on fourth down. Then that changes.
Yeah,
there are those plays throughout the game, and I think they even out for the most part here. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who is out there. You have to make the play because you are out there.
Next man up.
And that's the way it is. But look, this week, for all the talk about Geno Smith and what that Seattle offense has been doing, their defense has been pretty putrid this season. Outside of one game against the Arizona Cardinals, they've been giving up 28-plus points a game over there, including, I think they give up 40-something twice this season, at least once to Detroit, and they had another shootout.
Seattle.
Seattle.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, right.
I said Seattle. They're playing Seattle.
Yeah,
New
of
Orleans.
course.
Another big shootout there. So I think the Giants will actually have opportunities on offense this week. And yes, I mean, Neal's a huge loss, but I don't know that they're going to be able to get pressure on Daniel Jones in this offense because they haven't shown that they can do it all season. Bruce Irvin's the only one who's really still there.
They just brought him back.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Bobby Wagner. I mean, this is not the Legion of Boom that Seattle was years ago, and so they've reinvented themselves.
But they still look like highlighters on the field. So there
and it matches Pete Carroll's gum. I love that.
It's unbelievable.
God, it's
love it. All right, so here's the question. I want you guys. A vault with the wet. Would you leave my Commanders alone? So Moose and Joe, here's my question. I want you guys really to listen, think about this, and soak it in. The New York Football Giants have a chance to be 7-1 and continue and go on a 5-game win streak with the win this weekend. Moose-O-Matic, will they do it?
I think Seattle wins this week.
Oh, hold on, stop. Joe, will they do it?
I'm going with Big Blue.
Yes, see, Moose.
So
you can learn from that.
So I acknowledge, right, Seattle's one of the tough, and we talked about this on this podcast. Home field doesn't mean what it used to mean in the NFL anymore. Seattle might be the exception to that rule. I mean, it is still tough to play out there with the 12th man.
Yeah.
That being said,
I think they cheat and pump in crowd noise.
Well,
by the way,
we've heard
we
that
should investigate that for this week.
That's Todd Ehrlich who just said that.
Todd Ehrlich just said that. Roger Goodell, note to you, if you could do that before this weekend, it'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Sorry, Joe. Continue with the program.
So I think that the Giants' offense, right, is proven already, though, that it's disciplined, right? They're not the team that's making the mistakes in the critical moments. So I think that they're going to be able to go out there and handle that crowd noise. The other thing that again boggles my mind is this team is an underdog yet again. They get no respect, like Rodney Dangerfield over here. At some point, you are what your record says you are, right? And I can't believe that Seattle defense is going to be able to go make a stop when it counts. And for that reason, I think they win yet another close one. I think Seattle's going to be the team that makes the mistakes down the stretch, especially if DK Metcalf doesn't play. That changes the offense in a big way. I think it's going to be lower scoring than you might think because I think Seattle's going to focus on running the ball, and the Giants have been giving up, almost 6 yards a carry this season. But I think the Giants find a way to win down the stretch.
Listen, I'd love to be wrong.
I would love you to be wrong.
Yeah, I'd love to be wrong, and maybe you're right. I mean, listen, it's anyone's game. You could easily see the Giants winning the game. That's Todd's phone. Thank you, Todd.
The soundtrack to the show.
Thank you, Moose. I was trying to have music to the end because you were giving such a gloomy prediction.
Oh, we're going on Halloween?
Halloween. There
Yes,
we go. What do you got?
exactly.
Michael Myers
No,
music
you got to
coming?
get Michael Jackson a little Thriller.
We'll have a Thriller on
We
Sunday.
don't play Michael Jackson on this podcast.
Oh.
It's inappropriate. It's frowned upon, Moose.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Respect the art.
right.
Forget
Oh,
the
well,
artist.
that's possible. Interesting. So, Moose, you were saying.
No, I was done.
You
I
were
picked
done?
Seattle.
That was it?
That was it.
You picked Seattle? No reason?
No, he
nothing?
gave it.
I gave the reasons. I gave the reasons.
If our viewers listen as much as you do, that explains
that
why
would
they
be a
stayed to
problem.
the end.
All right, Joe, Mark, who do you like?
So I'm going to end it this way.
What's that?
The New York Football Giants, behind the Offensive Player of the Week, get 24 points. Greg Buttle said, you get 24 points, you win. They win 24-23. Both teams on 5-game win streaks. And our podcast listening audience through the roof. Moose, because I listen, you already promote the New York Blitz. Joe, New York Sports Nation.
I mean, we got a full hour of New York Sports Nation. What could be better than that? And we're going to be talking about 2 winning football teams, as Todd just outlined here. So make sure you stop by. Will we have a live report from Seattle?
We will. We will. Pat Leonard.
Pat Leonard joins us
And-
this week,
and
so you don't want to
Dangerous
miss
Dan the
that.
Jet Man.
As always,
Yes.
from MetLife.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Pat
Moose.
Leonard's
No, it's
fantastic on TV.
Sunday nights at 11 on PIX.
And Scoop. Yeah.
Scoop,
Moose?
yeah, Brandon Robinson, Scoop B.
Love
Gonna
him.
talk a little NBA.
It's
Little
nice.
Nets. Little Nets. All good. Tune in. Pix 11, unless you have Fios.
Oh.
In which case, go to Neighbors and tune in.
That's it.
Pix11.com.
Or you can watch online.
There we go.
You could. That's probably a better option than knocking your neighbor's door at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. That could be inappropriate.
Yes, that's true.
But if he gets his ratings, I'm all for it.
Plan ahead if you're going to
Right,
do that.
right. Text them ahead of time and bring brownies.
Have a great week,
All right,
everybody.
see you
We'll talk
guys.
to you next time.
So I was looking up Tyler Lockett's injury on my fantasy because he's on my team, and on Yahoo, they play the fantasy thing and the music went off. I'm sorry.
No,
man.
all good. I was
I'm
just joking.
sorry.